Okay, everyone, and welcome to episode 39.
I believe it's 39, yeah. 39 episodes.
Wow.
That means our next one is our 40th episode. We're almost going to make it to 50. Not quite, but
Close.
we got a few more weeks left on the show on WPMD Radio. I'm Ethan.
I'm Rob.
Welcome back. You can give us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/Beyond the Ropes. You can also check us out on YouTube, search up Beyond the Ropes. We are on WPMD Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. every Monday and Wednesday for at least the next couple of weeks to go. We are currently on YouNow. And how can people find us?
Ask_questions.
The hashtag ask_questions on YouNow. Usually around 11 we like to start, maybe a few minutes earlier. We are on Periscope, correct?
Yeah.
And how can they find us there?
They should look up on the map. It'll show Norwalk in there. One of the broadcasts.
All right, search up Norwalk, and we'll be there. We are also on your SoundCloud, correct?
Yeah.
Rob Flores. So you can look that up. So you can find us anytime on there.
3 different.
Yeah, we're in a different angle today. We are still in the same, our same studio.
Now you can see the waves behind us.
Yeah, now you get to see the computer that's recording us. You get to see kind of the background here instead of a door, instead of all the window.
People's heads walking.
People walking right behind us. And so here we are, a new week. And there was a pay-per-view last night. Raw exclusive pay-per-view event. It was Payback.
Thanks to Periscopers, I was able to see some.
Wow, it was good. It was a good show. And so we're going to get started with some results here. And so the pre-show, there was a pre-show match, which consisted of Gallows and Anderson taking on Enzo and Cass. We both predicted Enzo and Cass would pick up the victory, and that is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Enzo got a roll-up on Gallows, I believe. I believe that was a finish, and so...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Gallows and Anderson are just going to be acting like bitter and stuff for a while.
I'm sure. They're not picking up those wins, unfortunately. And so we'll see where they go. We'll see where Enzo and Cass go. They picked up the victory last night. Good for them. There was a Miz TV featuring Finn Balor. A nice back and forth between Miz and Finn Balor. I'm not sure if this is going to lead into a feud between them or not, but it could have just been something to give Finn Balor something to do and Miz something to do. Essentially, Miz asked if he could be a part of the Balor Club, and Finn, very cool and collective, he pretty much said it's not his decision. It's the Balor Club's decision. It's a club's decision, and the audience did not want Miz there, but they were chanting for Maurice. Whenever the Miz pointed at Maurice, people were chanting yes. Ultimately, Finn said they couldn't get in, and then Miz asked what was next for Finn Balor, and he said he's going after that Universal Championship. He wants his title back.
Man, talk about size difference, though.
Yeah, and he did mention that. Miz mentioned that Lesnar would break Finn in half, and Finn said he's used to it. He's used to facing people that are bigger than him, but he looks forward to that challenge. In addition, Miz also called Finn a failure because everywhere he's been, he's won a title, and when he made it to the main roster and became the first Universal Champion, he essentially lost. He got injured and lost that opportunity, and he called him a failure. And Finn said, "You know what? Every Miz TV ends the same way, with you getting your butt kicked, essentially."
Wow.
And as it looked like Finn was gonna take one on Miz, Maurice got in the way, of course, and so Finn said he's not worth it. In which Miz took offense to it and kind of stepped away from Maurice and started saying, he's very much worth it and everything. And then Finn pretty much attacked him and left Miz scurrying away, hitting Finn's music. So that was a nice segment there. Fun little entertainment segment before this show started. I thought overall this show, um, this pay per view was really well done. Overall, I think I can't really complain about anything. I thought it was a really good, solid pay per view.
I thought it was pretty fun watching it through Periscope because of the audience commentary.
Oh, that's cool. And so we're gonna start it off with. I'm gonna try and go in order by how I remember it. It started off with the United States Championship match between Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. This was much better than their match at Mania. I think we can say this about a couple matches, but this was a really good match, a really good opening match. So how they ended WrestleMania in this match was Kevin Owens got one finger on the rope, kind of escaping from the walls of Jericho. And so that happened again last night. And instead of Jericho kind of letting that go and stuff, he actually stepped on Owens' finger and kind of beat on his hand, and then took him outside and used the steel steps on his fingers. And then he got the walls of Jericho on Owens again, which, by the way, he was sporting USA kind of gear. He was, I don't know if you noticed. Did you watch this match? Or?
No, that one I didn't
No.
get to.
Okay, so on the screen it has Kevin Owens' face on it, on the Titantron when he was coming out, and it says the face of America.
Oh.
And then on the bottom too, you know how they have the video screen on the bottom, which was funny. And then he was wearing a KO logo on his shirt with the American flag on it, and then again his shorts were American colored.
By the time I got to see it on Periscope, someone was scoping the end of the Bailey match.
Oh, okay. But yes, so essentially Jericho put Owens back in the walls of Jericho and made him submit. Jericho is now going to SmackDown Live and is the new United States champion, a two-time United States champion. Good for Chris Jericho. You predicted that, right? I didn't.
Yeah.
I predicted Owens, but
like they said, it's only because he agreed to appear on SmackDown still. He's going to at least have the SmackDown where he'll drop it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, absolutely. He's going to go on tour with Fozzy, which begins
Wow.
this Saturday. Speaking of Fozzy, they have a new song and music video coming out tomorrow, so shout out to them. Tomorrow at, I believe, Pacific time, our time at 7 a.m., because at East Coast it's 10 a.m. So there's that, and then, Fozzy's going on tour. Jericho will be on tour with that. And there was this funny kind of WWE.com exclusive between Jericho and Kurt Angle after the show, where they were kind of saying farewell to each other because Jericho was going to SmackDown. And then we get to see one of the announcers, I forgot his last name, but Mike, you know how Jericho the other week was putting him on the list because he thought it was Tom Phillips. You know, them two, he gets them mixed up. And then Tom Phillips comes out and interviews him as well, and Jericho's all confused, like he doesn't know who's Mike and who's Tom. And then he ends up putting both of them on the list, I believe. So it was funny. And then he says he'll see Mike on SmackDown, which is really Tom Phillips. It was funny. You should check it out. It's a lot funnier than how I explained it. But it was a good segment. Next up, we had the Cruiserweight Championship. Austin Aries taking on Neville. Again, better than their match for WrestleMania, I thought. Unfortunately, we both predicted Austin Aries would win, which he technically did, but it was by disqualification. Neville ended up grabbing the referee as he was about to tap out from the last chancery. There were several false finishes here. Good build-up overall, but unfortunately we did not get to see a clear winner as Neville grabbed the referee and got himself disqualified, keeping his Cruiserweight Championship. And this was the first time Neville has had to do that since he's debuted in the Cruiserweight division, so he's definitely, Aries is definitely getting closer and closer every time to capturing that Cruiserweight Championship. Hopefully we'll see it maybe on tonight Monday Night Raw, or even 205 Live.
I mean, technically, I would imagine that Perkins would be like, he's got to get back in the line.
Well, he was not there last night, even though he's been kind of a Neville's advocate. But we'll see how that goes. Aries is still, I guess, technically owed another match because of this disqualification. So we'll see where that goes. For the Raw Women's Championship, Bayley in her hometown of San Jose defended against Alexa Bliss. What was a solid match. This was a good match, and ultimately, thanks to a little assistance from the steel post, Alexa Bliss was able to hit a DDT and defeat Bayley in front of her friends and family.
I think that was the perfect setting to drop the belt.
It was a good setting. You predicted it correctly. Alexa Bliss won the title and became the first woman to win both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship. So she made history last night. It wasn't any of the 4 horsewomen. It wasn't any of those. It was Alexa Bliss. Good for her. I'm really happy. I think it's very cool that we are seeing other women make history. Aside from the typical 4 horsewomen that we're used to seeing. Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Bayley, or Sasha. It was really cool to see Alexa Bliss capture that title, especially in a very heelish way. She won it in Bayley's hometown. The fans weren't too happy there, but it was a good for Alexa Bliss. Good moment for her, history-making moment for her. I didn't expect it. You predicted it, but I was not expecting that finish. Next up, it was the Hardy Boys taking on Cesaro and Sheamus. This was arguably the match of the night. Arguably because it was tough. I would say the Jericho Owens match was really good. This one and then the main event was 3 really good matches. But the tag team champions, the Hardy Boys, the Raw tag team title holders, defended against Cesaro and Sheamus. And after several weeks of tension, did you watch this?
No, and it froze on me afterwards, and I had to re-sign in again. And by then it was already Bray.
Oh, unfortunately, you didn't get to see it, but good
I saw
match.
the tooth part.
Yes, Jeff Hardy lost his tooth thanks to a hard and stiff shot by Sheamus. It did not look pretty. It knocked it clear right out of his mouth.
It's something how somehow that is how they thought of a tweet.
Well, what?
Sheamus, I think, put something about broken tooth. That was delightful.
Oh, that's funny. But yes, it was. They had a backstage segment where Jeff was getting checked on, so they might be able to put that exact tooth back on. Maybe not, but we'll have to wait and see. I guess. But essentially, after a kind of a sneak tag, I guess it was kind of a. Sheamus was a legal man and didn't see Jeff tagging his brother Matt. As Sheamus was pinning Matt, the referee acknowledged that he wasn't the legal man, and Jeff hit a swanton bomb, sandwiching Sheamus in between him and his brother Matt to get the victory. After the match, they shook hands, and as Cesaro and Sheamus left the ring, the Hardys celebrated, and then were attacked by Sheamus and Cesaro as they turned heel and absolutely decimated the Hardys. Sheamus was pretty much throwing Jeff against the post a number of times and then getting a bro kick, pushing him into that steel post, and then much of the same was just getting beat on and got a bro kick in the middle of the ring. Sheamus and Cesaro officially heels, and they talked about they had Raw talk after how they have Talking Smack after the show. They kind of explained themselves.
I would imagine that it's better to have Cesaro as a babyface, considering all the hype he gets with the Cesaro section and everything like that.
Well, people were booing last night. I think there were a lot more people booing as soon as they started beating those Hardys. They were not getting cheered at all. There might have been a select few that like the heels, but for the most part they were getting booed after that assault. And so we officially see heel Cesaro and Sheamus, and this is Sheamus said on Raw Talk after the show, this is kind of this is what happens when Cesaro and Sheamus work together. They absolutely demolish their competition. And so this is their attitude moving forward. Really cool to see. Next up, it was the House of Horrors match between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. Did you see this at all?
Yeah, but I was disappointed with the setting. It looked too nice.
So apparently this was filmed in Kansas City, last week's home of Monday Night Raw. And so obviously it was not in San Jose, California, where they were at for Payback.
Those baby dolls were...
It was it was a bit creepy, but I did expect a little more. So essentially, we're gonna set it up here. Randy Orton arrived in a limousine, not wearing a shirt, but he was wearing kind of the elbow pads and that wrist tape and
Wow.
wearing jeans. And he entered the house, and it looked like a bit of a horror film a little bit as he entered. You know, he saw images outside from the outside. As he entered, you know, there was just dirty furniture and stuff. And as you mentioned, there was a room of kind of baby dolls
Yeah.
hanging. There was another one where it looked like there was like a crucifix or some kind of like coven in a room. And you know, Bray Wyatt came out in this white shirt and assaulted Randy throughout. And after he would beat him, he would kind of disappear, and then show up again in another room and such. And so they tried to make it as creepy as possible without, I guess, doing a whole lot. Didn't look as if they put a whole lot of production into it. Apparently, the house is on sale.
Mm.
It's actually being sold, so you know, it doesn't look very nice. And daylight, I saw a picture of it.
I think it was just a poor attempt. All the deletion periscopers just kept saying delete and stuff like that. And they were brutal. They were like, too much editing for it being a live event.
Well, I mean, they tried to make it as freaky as possible without actually having anything physical there, I guess. Ultimately, it led to them in the kitchen, where Bray dropped a fridge on Randy Orton.
Wow.
And as you know, Bray took a little while to leave because he looked beat up. He left in the limousine there, and drove to the arena. And then we got to see our next match, which we didn't even predict because we forgot to predict. We forgot about this match, Seth Rollins versus Samoa Joe.
Oh.
We didn't predict on this one, unfortunately.
That was interesting to see Jinder over there.
Yes, we'll talk about that when we get back to the Orton. But I want to go back in order here. Seth Rollins and Samoa Joe. Good match. Again, that knee was being worked on by Joe. Ultimately, it was Seth who I believe picked up. He countered the Coquina clutch and in a way where he was pinning Samoa Joe and got the victory. So Joe did not look too pleased.
Would have preferred if Joe won. Try to keep a little bit of a streak for a bit.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a dominant pin or anything. Again, it was like a roll up essentially. So Seth kind of escaped.
Loss.
But he kind of escaped, and he lost to a former. He lost to a former world champion. So it's not like he lost to just anyone. Seth's kind of been on a roll, kind of getting that redemption. I'm sure they probably will continue this feud at the next pay-per-view, which we have to talk about the next pay-per-view, which we will. But getting back to that Randy Orton, Samoa Joe Bray Wyatt match. Bray Wyatt entered the arena to his music, and he thought he was he thought he was gonna win, right? You know, essentially what they had to do was they started out in the House of Horrors, and then they ended it in the ring. It was the No Holds Barred. And as the lights went back on, Randy Orton appeared out of nowhere and attacked Bray with the steel chair.
I thought it was going to be RKO instantly.
Yeah, and then what we did see an RKO after that, but then we saw the inclusion and the interruption of the Singh brothers who attacked Randy and then got beat up on their own, and then we got to see Jinder Mahal with Randy's WWE Championship. He used it on Randy, and then Bray was able to capitalize and hit a Sister Abigail to get the victory and beat Randy, ending this feud essentially. And then kind of Jinder Mahal walking away, and so.
I mean, normally with just one shot from a title.
Yeah, he used it a couple of times on the back of Randy's head and neck, and so that was very kind of expected. I think if you watched SmackDown the last couple of weeks, you kind of expected maybe Jinder to get involved in some capacity. We both predicted Bray would win, so we got that right. And so there's that. So we got to see Bray kind of win a feud, I guess.
It would have been nice though to still have Rowan show up.
Yeah, that would have made some sense. But obviously Backlash, a couple of weeks away, it's going to be Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. And In other news, we're also going to see Shinsuke Nakamura make his debut at Backlash. They showed about like 3 promos of Shinsuke kind of being teased for Backlash, and they've announced
It's nice to see someone else on the poster for once.
We get to see, he's on the poster, which is good for Shinsuke. A big deal. They're making him a big deal, which is really good to see. Shinsuke is a charismatic individual that's going to be here for a little while. I wonder how long it's going to take to put that title on them. I would think. Do you think they could put it on them as early as summer already, or do you think they're going to wait for it?
I mean, Randy would have to be preoccupied with something else.
Yeah, right. Well, right now he's going against Jinder. Do you think Jinder would win? I don't know.
Considering that from what I heard, India is their most lucrative international deal right now, I think. And,
yeah.
I mean, it's only makes sense. Let Jinder be the next face for India, because the Great Khali, I think he has no ties anymore, right?
No, he's done.
WWE, so
he's been done since he left a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think it'd be important that he drops the belt, but I would rather have someone like interfere so that Randy immediately has another program.
Okay. Question is who?
Rowan.
Rowan? Well, they had their match. It was kind of a blow off on SmackDown last week. It was the No Holds Barred match which Randy won.
Supposedly he's supposed to have a big push.
That's what I heard too. Who knows? I mean, everyone's kind of getting pushed out of nowhere, unexpected pushes, and so I mean, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
We get to see new stars and such.
The Jinder one makes sense.
Jinder one makes sense. I was surprised at first, but then when I read about what the reasoning behind it, it made sense. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But we have one more match for Payback, and it was probably the most brutal match I've seen in a very long time. Did you catch this match?
Which one?
Strowman versus Reigns.
Yeah, that's where I was saying that the Periscopers were like, hey, what's this? It's supposed to be called Payback.
It was not Payback at all. It was an absolute beatdown. So Braun Strowman came out, and then we got to see Roman Reigns come out very slowly, and he was wearing, behind his kind of vest, he was wearing a whole bunch of tape on his shoulder and his arm. He could barely move his left arm. I don't know if it's legitimate or not, but he looked like he was hurting. Essentially, Strowman was dominating most of the match. He threw him against the steel steps. He threw him around, body slammed him. Reigns got a little bit of offense. He got a Samoan drop. He got a couple of Superman punches. I think he got one spear in. And Braun was just too strong and hit about 2 power slams on Reigns and got the victory.
I think they should just keep Roman off TV at this point for a bit.
It was and unfortunately, there were people trying to thank you Strowman, which I don't think is the purpose of that. But I actually did feel sympathy for Reigns. I actually was like, wow, I actually feel bad for him.
For some reason, there's still rumor that they'll just trade him. They'll trade.
You think they're gonna trade him? Who knows? But I felt some sympathy. They made me feel sympathy for Reigns, but people in San Jose were not feeling any sympathy whatsoever.
The thing I like is that right now, every Shield member is a babyface. They're all on the right.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking about that. So we'll talk about that after this match. But essentially, after the match, Strowman got to steel steps and threw Reigns right on top of the steps, kind of his ribs and such hitting. And then he dropped the steel steps right on Reigns' ribs, in which caused him to bleed internally. He was spitting out blood. It did not look fake whatsoever. It looked like it legitimately crushed Reigns' ribs. However, after that,
I was expecting it to bend or something. The steps.
They did bend. It did bend when he dropped them the first time. They did bend a little, but Reigns was able to kind of walk out, with referees and EMTs trying to help him out. A very graphic image of him kind of going to the back, and then on the wall, you see the blood spit out of his mouth. And then it kind of ended with him almost going. It actually ended.
Charging bull.
Correction. The actual event ended on him by the announce table on the stage, and then they went to Raw Talk, which it continued of him going backstage, and then as he was in the ambulance getting on, Braun Strowman came out yelling, "I'm not finished with you yet." He ran. Reigns moved out of the way, and Strowman ran into breaking down that door, and then ran into a bunch of boxes, and then Reigns actually smashing Strowman's kind of face and head with the door, and then Strowman escaping. And then we get to see just that image of Reigns sitting on the back of the ambulance looking absolutely beat. And I thought that was a great ending. I really enjoyed the work of both of them, and I thought, it got me to sympathize with Reigns. It got me to really think of Strowman as an absolute monster. I thought this pay-per-view was really well done.
If he goes after Brock, though, I think Brock would have to be babyface.
I would think it'd be interesting, because the plan essentially next is for Braun to face Brock for that Universal Championship.
But I would want Bray to be the one to take it back.
You want Bray?
Because I can imagine the potential of Bray, like, taunting Strowman with that black sheep mask again.
I feel like they're done with that. I feel like they're moving forward.
Same show.
I know they're in the same show, but I feel like they need to just keep them away. Who knows?
What's his name? Balor.
I don't know. I don't know where they're going with any direction at this point, because last night it seemed like they closed some things, but they also opened a whole lot of new doors and possibilities. And that's kind of what I liked about it. What I like about WWE right now, it's very unpredictable at this moment. You don't know who's going to end up where. You don't know what's going to happen next. It's kind of at a good place right now where it needs to be, especially with that superstar shakeup. It really kind of really did a 180, I guess, for the company. Over this weekend, a lot of news, a lot of
X-Pac.
X-Pac. I lost my place here. Okay, so let me see. So we can talk about the X-Pac situation if you want. Essentially, X-Pac was booked for a show in England, I believe, or the UK, somewhere in the UK.
That's so surprising, though, for him to have a retirement run, and it's not even major, like major stream, like, it's not WWE.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's gonna happen in WWE. I think he's kind of past that point of, having an actual run with the company.
I mean, I had imagined him being more athletic than Road Dogg, though. Road Dogg was able to come back for a tag title run.
Road Dogg looked good in the ring. X-Pac, apparently there's a lot of wear and tear on his body. A lot of, he used to do a lot of drugs and alcohol and stuff. And so, I mean, so did Road Dogg, but I think he stopped a lot sooner than maybe X-Pac. I think X-Pac has dealt with a lot more. He does look in great shape. A couple weeks ago, he posted a picture of himself, and he looks in great shape. But again, that wear and tear will still come to you. And he's had a number of injuries too. Over the last couple of years. So it's not like he's been just fine or anything. So this was today's the 4th. I went back a little too far.
That's strange for him to no-show, though.
Yeah, so what ended up happening was X-Pac was booked, Sean Waltman was booked for a 6-man tag team match in essentially what would be his last appearance in the UK, because he is retiring. And what ended up happening was he kind of went missing. No one knows what. I haven't read anything recently. But yeah, unfortunately, he missed the show, and I guess the booker of that company sent out the notice like he's missing, and they would say what they would do, because they had, I guess, a bunch of things planned for him to do. They said they would find replacements, but they're just looking for him, obviously.
And he hasn't been on social media?
Not that I've seen. I haven't been on the last couple of days, but not as much. But I know a friend, a co-host of him, because I believe he hosts a podcast, and a co-host said that he did talk to him and that he's going through some things, but that he's doing fine. So he is doing fine. But for about 24 hours, he was kind of missing. No one knew where he was at. But he is doing well, I guess. So good for him. Hopefully he'll have another match in the UK some point, because that's really unfortunate for that to happen. In other news, an Impact Wrestling star got suspended from Pro Wrestling Noah. So Impact Wrestling had has a partnership with Pro Wrestling Noah, a Japanese promotion. And so I guess, they trade off kind of wrestlers and such. And according to this, Impact Wrestling star Bram has been pulled from the rest of Pro Wrestling Noah of the tour that they were on, following a social media post where Bram is shown laying on an ice cream bin at a Family Mart in Japan. Bram issued the statement, "I am very sorry, and I will take the decision of Noah seriously, and I apologize."
So what, they thought he looked like a bum or something?
So what I'm looking at is, here, you can look at the picture here. He's simply just laying down.
Is he flipping off, or?
No, he's throwing up the kind of the rock symbol. He's not doing anything but apparently they took offense to that. The company took offense to that, and I guess took it odd. So the Japanese culture is very different from ours, so they could have taken it as juvenile behavior, essentially. Japanese culture is different, so yeah, he essentially got suspended from that Pro Wrestling Noah, so that happened. Very interesting. So let's see what else. What else can we talk about? Mauro Ranallo, he called a boxing match this weekend, didn't he? I believe he did. Which was very talked about.
There was a lot of disappointment that he right away absolved JBL.
Well, apparently he did a really great job calling that boxing match. The fight, I should say. It was a very talked about fight this past weekend. It was apparently free. So, I heard a lot of buzz about it. Even this morning I heard about it. And so, but he called a fight, so he's already working outside of the company, so good for Mauro Ranallo.
It's nice to see that he doesn't stick to one particular sport.
Yeah, so he's well known for kind of MMA stuff, and now boxing, and of course he's called New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I'm sure he's called other wrestling stuff, but yeah, he's very versatile, and it's good to see him. Obviously he suffers with depression. It's good to see him back kind of doing what he likes to do, in a much less kind of strenuous schedule, and I guess a much better environment for him. Vader, I don't know if we talked about this last week, but Vader collapsed after a match against, it was essentially at the Corrigan Hall, celebrating the 45th anniversary of the debut of Tatsumi Fujinami, who I believe is a WWE Hall of Famer. Essentially is, so here the feeling is, Vader has had heart problems and is, only had a couple of years to live. That's what he was told. But he seems to be very, he's wrestling on his own time, I guess. Yeah, and there's no really other news other than that. They said that, so what he said is that he was dehydrated, which is why he fainted. But other reports could continue that he was the congenital heart failure diagnosis.
If he still wants to get in the ring, I don't know how he can manage to do that with a heart problem, though.
It's very serious. I don't know how he's able to do that. He said he got into really good shape, but obviously, him being as heavy as he is, as well as the heart issues, it's not something to take lightly, so. But he did say.
He was on 2 episodes of Boy Meets World?
What happened?
Boy Meets World?
He was on that?
Yeah.
I do not remember. I did not watch this one. But yeah, anyways, he's kind of doing things on his own terms, so hopefully things will work out for him.
He's still around. That'd be interesting to see next year. He could be part of WWE.
He wants to be in the Hall of Fame really bad. He's very, very.
That'd be something. I mean, he got to be in like one of the games, no? Like 2012, I think, or 13.
What do you mean? In one of the
WWE games.
That's right. He'd been in some of the games, absolutely. And so the relationship's there. It's a matter of just putting him in the Hall of Fame, which they haven't done so. So
that should have already been this year then.
Who knows? Maybe next year. Hopefully. So Jack Swagger. So we noted that last month he asked for his release and he was granted it. He's been kind of doing this tour, the We the People Worldwide Tour, the You Don't Know Jack kind of tour. Apparently, a promoter told the Wrestling Observer that Jack Swagger was asking for $4,000 per show, which they felt was a high number for most independent promotions. Seems a bit high.
Yeah.
Swagger is expected to be working in Mexico for the full promotion against Alberto El Patron, and he is booked for the House of Hardcore shows in Australia. He did say he was open to working with Impact Wrestling, and so he does not have the rights to the name Jack Swagger, but he is being advertised for those shows as Jack Swagger. So there's Jack Swagger news there.
There's probably be some legal action.
His real name is Jake Hager, so he would have to go by that, I guess. I don't know how that works.
So technically, if WWE wanted to pursue action, it would be against the promoter.
I'm not really sure how that would work. Probably, I'm not we're not lawyers here, so we don't really know how that works exactly. But who knows? There were a number of releases last week for NXT kind of talents. I'm so gonna butcher this name. If I can get this up, let me see. Okay, that didn't help. Well, there were a number of releases. One of them being. This is taking forever to load. Apologize. Theophilus Agby, who signed with the company last October. So there's that. Another NXT talent that was released was Chris Atkins, and backstage interview Andrea Ocampo. They were released last week, which is unfortunate, but WWE seems to be clearing out some talents to make room for incoming talents.
What is it with I don't know. For some reason, TNA sure has a lot of like Vegas. Nevada, okay, there was the Reno Scum, but then it turns out that even the women's champion, I guess, has to do also with that gimmick.
So I'm not really sure. I haven't not been paying attention much to Impact Wrestling as of late, but I'm sure there's like a territory there that they probably get all their talent from.
GFW sure has quite a bit of.
Yeah, they've got a plethora of talents, I guess, to choose from.
But it's interesting that her title reign, I didn't know it was 2 years.
Yeah, that sounds. I heard about that. That's crazy.
It's very rare to see title reigns like that.
Asuka has held the title for over a year now.
Wow.
Which she'll probably have to lose it eventually if she's going to the main roster soon. So, but speaking of women, Vince McMahon has decided on who will be the face of the SmackDown brand. You want to guess who it is? Yeah. So apparently, last week.
So much for opportunities.
So last week on SmackDown, we didn't get to do a recap. We probably won't have time to do it again. But last week, Natalya, Tamina, and Carmella attacked Charlotte and Naomi during the Women's Championship match in the main event. And essentially that was done in order to get some kind of a babyface reaction for Charlotte and turn her babyface. So essentially the plan is for Charlotte to kind of be that new face for SmackDown.
Gonna get her shot.
Who knows? Who knows? They're part of that trio now, so they're doing something at least. And so it looks like Charlotte will kind of be taking over that position. I lost my spot again. But that's we get to see a face turn, which I guess is cool. I mean, we get to see something different from Charlotte. You don't get to see a normal heel turn.
You would imagine then that would mean Becky would change. Like Becky would have trust issues with her and stuff.
Becky could be a face. I mean, as of right now, we have 3 heels and 2 faces.
Which Bella twin is hotter? But they're twin. I guess Brie.
I mean, sure, Brie. I guess.
Yeah.
And so speaking of this, we talked about Jack Swagger right now. This recently just came up. Swagger did an interview with Main Event Radio and explained the reason why he left the WWE. I had been with the company for 10 years. I'm very fortunate for the career that I had. What it really was is a business decision. I valued myself at a certain price. They valued it as another. He said that he needs to move forward in his life and see other opportunities. He looks at it as he is green and all over again and is excited. He is grateful for the brand that they have created together and is now a family man as he takes care of his family and at home. While reflecting on his career, he believes that he could have handled situations differently as he made mistakes. Now he wants to put his nose to the concrete and go to the independent wrestling scene. He said that he's willing to go anywhere he believes working in Japan would be a perfect situation. And so there have been a number of names that have done that and have done well for themselves, kind of like Cody Rhodes and Drew Galloway. Obviously, Drew Galloway is back as Drew McIntyre, so he can definitely rebuild his brand and his name there. Speaking of Japan, the Bullet Club. The Bullet Club has been around for a few years. We talked about Finn Balor and AJ Styles. So apparently there was a signing at Frank and Sons in Southern California City of Industry over the weekend. Oh man, we could have gone. Hulk Hogan was there.
What?
That's right.
He's trying to join.
And he said he was asked if he would be part of the hottest faction in professional wrestling since the NWO. Hogan is a smart man, and he said that I would love to be in the Bullet Club. I'd love to be the OG for the Bullet Club, he added. Teach them boys how to really get corrupt. So,
That would be interesting.
that's really cool. Which in other news, apparently the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega have signed deals for their merchandise to be sold at Hot Topic. Which is really cool because only WWE and I believe Lucha Underground have merchandise on Hot Topic.
From Pro Wrestling Tees?
No, so apparently, this is, they're the top merchandise sellers on Pro Wrestling Tees, but the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega have signed individual deals for Hot Topic. So Hot Topic will sell, for WWE, they have kind of the stuff that they will sell at Shop, some of those shirts, but they also sell original stuff too, that they won't sell on WWE Shop. So they'll sell...
I mean, I've seen the design of the popsicle ones, those smiley face ones, that's about
The New Day?
Yeah.
No, that's on WWE Shop as well.
Oh.
So I actually have some Hot Topic WWE merch. I think there's one of the Bray Wyatt Lantern that I have. That's exclusively a Hot Topic shirt. That's not a WWE.
Last week, the only thing I saw was a Funko doll of Kofi.
Yeah, but they have exclusive. They do have exclusive stuff that they won't sell. I think, like there was a Sheamus shirt that I have that's exclusively Hot Topic too. So they'll sell WWE shirts, a couple of different ones, but they'll also have like original stuff that they won't sell on WWE Shop. So I think that's what the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega are getting, which is really cool. Good for them. Hot Topic usually has really good branding as far as like the merch, which is really cool to see. So good for them. But Hulk Hogan and the Bullet Club, you think that'll be cool?
Well, I mean, it'd be nice just to see the fact that he'd finally be able to go to a promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Although, yeah, he'd miss his shot then to go ahead and be in, like, WrestleMania and stuff. Because I don't think, if you're under contract to somewhere else, I don't think WWE, like, lets you, like, show up to anything.
Unless it's a Legends contract. But even so, I don't think WWE would want anyone to go on any other promotions.
I think he should just do Japan. He's focus on that. Because you'd imagine how lucrative it'd be to, especially the fact that New Japan has this deal now that they're gonna start branching out to America.
Mm-hmm. They're doing part of the G1 Climax tournament here in LA, or Long Beach actually. Which
they need to sign him. The problem is, I mean, how much is he wanting?
He's not gonna be wrestling. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Like, if he's not gonna be wrestling, is it really gonna be worth getting Hogan?
TNA lost, like, they needed to pay him a ton of money just per appearance. It wasn't even just be in the ring, it was to show up on television.
In addition to that, he made a lot of changes to that, and it kind of hurt the brand. And so, does New Japan really want to take that chance? I mean, they could just sign him and, have him be like a manager, which
he just
could
better
do no
get
harm.
comfortable with the octagon.
Who knows? Going back to the House of Horrors match, the house is actually on the market for $36,000. So,
what,
very
did it
cheap.
rise up or something?
No, I think it's in Kansas City, so it's not that expensive. And if we saw the house, not a very pretty house. I actually wouldn't mind living there, at least visiting there. That would be kind of cool. But here's a picture of Jericho putting the Mike and Tom on the list. You gotta watch that video. Look it up on YouTube. But it's really cool. I think we covered most of this news for the past week. Predictions for Raw tonight. We got a few minutes left. Do we see the Broken Hardys yet? They got quite a beating last night.
I mean, the most appropriate turn would have been when they lost the belts. I don't understand how a broken tooth will unleash broken Matt.
Well, they got beat up pretty bad. Like, their heads were like thrown against the ring post, so it could have caused some damage, I guess, if you want to say.
So, like, maybe a segment of
maybe they could
Matt
start
in the hospital.
They could start becoming broken. Who knows? So, I mean, I'll check their Twitters. Maybe they put something on Twitter.
And can you imagine if all of a sudden they decided Jeff should, like, not repair the tooth and be like Benoit when they told him, hey, just keep the tooth off. Toothless aggression.
Oh my God. No, they're definitely going to put Jeff with the back. They're going to put that tooth back in, I'm sure. Let me see if Matt Hardy has tweeted anything. So he's currently going by the name Reborn by Fate, which is their shirt that they have. Let's see. Okay, so they did put that. So this is what. Oh, look at that. Matt Hardy's son. Matching gear. So if you follow Rebby Hardy on Snapchat, she always posts stuff of his son. And they were watching Payback in their home theater. And Max was wearing the same gear that Matt was wearing last night. Matching gear. It's really cool. He put my inspiration. Oh, okay, so this is what was tweeted that you said. Okay, so let me get. So before we get to the tweets about Sheamus and Cesaro, Matt put this tweet. McMahon has catered to my desires. Delightful. The green beans. So Matt has known to love green beans, part of the Broken Universe, and there's a picture he took a picture of green beans, which is funny. But saying, so Sheamus put, toothless and broken, tonight was delightful. And then Matt Hardy responded, you obsolete heretics have no idea what you've just done. Which could be a tease to that broken Hardy. He also said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, you mundane mule from Ireland, I will eat you. This sportsmanship, in quotes, malarkey, Sheamus and Cesaro, it's over. It's over, excuse me. Sheamus then responded by saying, work that all out on your own, ? He said, and then Matt Hardy finally responded by saying, we were inspired to adopt the stance by two cantankerous Neanderthals. Creatures will always ultimately become obsolete, then extinct. Something tells me Broken Matt Hardy is pretty much back, at least on Twitter and the Twitter universe. Don't know if we're gonna see him tonight, but it seems like we're getting closer and closer to that broken universe, which I'm really looking forward to.
I mean, they would have to have already settled in court and stuff like that.
I don't know if they have, but it's
Then TNA could afford bringing people.
yeah, that's true. I mean, it would probably be a significant check for Impact Wrestling and Anthem
But
Sports.
it's weird because the wording of... There's some articles that claim that maybe it's a thing where they want to avoid... They want to buy it fully from TNA as
Right.
opposed to TNA trying to say they would want royalties.
That's exactly what they want.
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't want to pay Impact Wrestling for anything.
Yeah.
Unless they outright buy them or anything. Also, 47 minutes ago, Alexa Bliss is getting her nameplates on the Women's Championship.
Wow.
Very cool. There's a certain, on Facebook, there's a certain blissful element to the Raw Women's Championship. I love her puns. They're hilarious. So, we're down to the last couple of weeks of our show on WPMD Radio.
Yeah.
And possibly the last show ever. Possibly. I don't want to close the doors all the way. Maybe down the line, it's possible to do more.
Yeah.
Somewhere, maybe in the future. We'll still obviously have our Facebook page still around.
Yeah, we can still upload there.
We can still upload stuff. I mean, whether, I don't know if it's us doing this anymore or if we could just do maybe our own videos and post it on there. That would be to keep the kind of Beyond the Ropes alive, because I don't think we're not gonna let this go.
Yeah, because those previous fan pages that used that same name, they just
we're not
stopped.
losing that name. We're not gonna lose that name. We're keeping it. We're gonna keep doing stuff. I mean, I don't know what exactly. We'll kind of figure it out.
Because we'll be the ones to keep the name going as far as wrestling. Because I know that boxing does have Beyond the Ropes, some kind of documentary or something.
Oh, really?
Over
That's
that.
cool.
But as far as wrestling, we'll be the ones.
We'll be the ones
keep
to
it going.
keep it alive in some form or fashion. Maybe we could give our own predictions about there. We could post our predictions on there for pay-per-views and such. We could briefly, go back and forth on, predictions and all that.
Graduation's almost here.
We're about less than a month away, with 3 weeks or so.
Wow.
But we are excited. Our last episode, we're going to figure that out, because we're going to make it special. We don't want to just do a recap. We don't just want to give away news. We should do something special. Last season, we did some Superstar highlights where we talked about specific subjects. We did commentary for a match.
That was fun.
It was fun. I mean, I don't know if it's possible we could do that again.
Yeah, we just probably have.
We just have to cut out the sound, excuse me. I think that would be cool to do. We could figure out a match.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do that over the next couple of weeks too, not just the last one. We'll work that way. Maybe a 10-minute match or something. We'll figure it out. We'll get back to kind of doing that in addition to giving some recaps and news and predictions. I think we might be able to give predictions for Backlash still on our last show, maybe.
Yeah, because that one's the SmackDown one, right?
The SmackDown.
When's the next Raw pay-per-view?
It won't be until June, I believe.
But which one is it?
It's gonna. Oh, we were gonna talk about that. It's now called Great Balls of Fire.
What?
That is the official name for the next Raw exclusive pay-per-view.
So they'll probably have that song.
I don't know what they're gonna have, but that is officially the name for the next Raw pay-per-view. It was originally supposed to be called Bad Blood, which was the old pay-per-view that they had, but now it's been advertised at Great Balls of Fire, in which Big E actually tweeted something, which is funny. I'll share this one last thing kind of before we go. Big E was pretty disappointed that he didn't get the opportunity to be a part of that. Isn't going to be a part of that. So he says this: clearly, the most disappointing aspect of no longer being on Raw is knowing I won't be a part of the first annual Great Balls of Fire. And so, it's funny. We'll see the New Day back on SmackDown hopefully soon. But yes, that is the next Raw pay-per-view.
It makes sense for them to wait till Kofi feels better.
Absolutely. But anyways, we're going to figure things out on the last couple of weeks of the show on WPMD Radio. Until next time, you can catch us on WPMD Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. We are Beyond the Ropes. Give us a like, facebook.com/Beyond the Ropes. Until next time, I'm Ethan.
I'm Rob.
And this episode's been too sweet.